UFC 310 was certainly an interesting one. I think, look, the real main event was Shavkat versus Ian Garry. I think, Kai versus Pantoja was a very interesting fight on many levels, but, most people were looking forward to Shavkat Garry. I think that was the fight that had the most hype going into it, and I think that's for a number of reasons, one of which being Ian Garry and Shavkat are just such polar opposites on so many different levels. You've got Shavkat, who exclusively eats horse meat. You have Ian Garry, who is a vegan. Shavkat has a very large head. Ian Garry has a very small head. I guess that's it. But, regardless, I think you got two undefeated guys who are extremely, extremely skilled going at it. And, of course, this was going to be the most hyped fight. But, it's interesting. I think the reaction post this fight, I think most people are kind of of the mind that, wow, Shavkat might have underperformed. Shavkat didn't look good. Because of this performance, Shavkat now doesn't stand a chance against Belal. But look, I'll be honest with you. To me, there wasn't a ton surprising about this fight, except for the fact that I think Shavkat's striking looked better than I was anticipating. I think, my initial breakdown for this fight, the main point to it was Shavkat Rakhmonov is not a very strong wrestler because of the fact that he comes from a Sambo background. Sambo is not wrestling. It's just a very different grappling art, and it's primarily more judo-based because of the gi jacket. Now, though, without the gi jacket on, you're essentially doing Greco-Roman wrestling, which is just harder to pull off in MMA. And, again, a lot of people are very amazed by Ian Garry's takedown defense in this fight, but I mean, if you look at the Carlson-Harris fight, you would have seen that, Shavkat struggles at times completing clinch takedowns. I mean, he was lifting Harris in the air and spinning him and jostling him and turning him, and he really struggled taking him down. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he had him pushed up against the fence the entirety of round one and just wasn't able to get anything off. Again, round two was pretty much the same until he eventually switched to a single leg. So to me, it was like, well, Ian Garry is probably going to be able to defend the clinch takedowns, and on the feet, you would give Garry on paper a very big advantage. But honestly, Shavkat's striking, his distance management, his timing all looked really, really good. I mean, of course, I would have always said that Shavkat is a very dangerous striker. He can throw a very wide variety of strikes. He certainly has power, but he's kind of one of those guys just to go at you recklessly. He wants to get in your face. He's very willing to eat punches just to land a couple on you, and he's just kind of trying to grind you out. And look, when you're fighting somebody like Geoff Neal or Belal Muhammad, which we will get into later, those two guys, are shorter, more compact. They want to get on the inside. They want to pressure you. Well, I mean, you would say that Shavkat is a very dangerous matchup for people like that because of how dangerous Shavkat is in the pocket. His short punches have a ton of power. His knees to the body are just vicious. But you look at a matchup against Ian Garry and you'd say, well, if Shavkat went at Ian Garry recklessly, if he just marched at him face first, trying to, close the distance, trying to pressure him, well, Ian Garry has really good footwork, really good distance management. He should have a speed advantage. So he would just move on the outside and try to pick Shavkat apart. But that is not what we saw in this fight. Honestly, Shavkat at times was outboxing Ian Garry on the outside. I mean, look, a lot of people are questioning the decision. I think, though, the first couple rounds, Shavkat clearly edged it out because he was the one landing the bigger shots. Of course, you're going to give Ian Garry round 3 and 5. I think there's no question there, especially round 5. Round 4 was very, very close, but I think at the very end of that round, Shavkat landed some big ground and pound, and I think he just edged it out. So look, I do agree with the decision. I think it was very, very fair. But one thing that was very, very interesting was round 4, Shavkat finally shot some traditional double legs, and that is how he got this fight to the ground. Again, when you are shooting a shot on your opponent, they have to address it. They have to deal with it right then and there. But again, when all you're relying is on clinch takedowns, it's just very difficult to build build that leverage to off-balance your opponent, especially when they can lean up against the fence. I mean, with that being said, though, this was genuinely a great attempt by Shavkat, and Ian's takedown defense here from the clinch was absolutely insane. But again, the double legs, it's different. Your timing has to be so much more precise to defend it correctly. And the shot he took here was so fast. Gets to his legs, switches to a single, uses a crossbody to take down Garry, which is exactly what he did to Wonderboy in that fight. And this is where Shavkat was finally finding success on the ground. You know, I've always said one of the best aspects of his game is his top pressure, his pure grappling on the ground. And when he's actually shooting these shots, you finally see that in play. I mean, you see the second double leg he had here in round 4. Ian tries to go for a guillotine, and as he pulls guard with it, Shavkat circles all the way to the other side, just completely killing the submission. And remember, round 4 was razor close. Shavkat edged that round because of the ground and pound he hit at the very end. If Ian Garry had got a hold of Shavkat's neck and kept him there in a guillotine for the remainder of the round, I mean, again, a submission attempt is considered effective grappling, the number 1 criteria the judges are supposed to look at. So he could have easily stolen that round. Though, while it is nice seeing Shavkat go for more effective traditional takedowns, he does depend on that cross-body takedown a little too much, because he went for it again round 5, but this time Garry was ready for it, ducks right underneath Shavkat's arm, and it just immediately opens up the back take. If you're going for a single leg, you cannot allow your opponent to get around your lead arm going for this crossbody. There's just no stopping the back take from there. And from this position, Ian was so close to finishing the choke. No matter what fucking Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan will tell you, a neck crank chokes you still, as long as you have it incorrectly. If you turn your face with the neck crank, that is what kills the choke. But the way Shavkat's chin was square to the choke was perfect. But you need to fully lock it in. You either need a really tight fulcrum grip or you need the hand all the way behind your opponent's head. And Ian was close to getting there, but it just wasn't perfect. Because of the bigger MMA gloves, it's harder to sneak that hand behind the head. So Shavkat is able to survive where he wins the decision. But again, because of this performance, a lot of people are now asserting that, oh, well, I mean, Shavkat's not beating Belal Muhammad. I mean, there's no way. Based on this performance, he just can't do it. And, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not so sure about that. I mean, again, I do think Belal has some very clear advantages, but I also think he has some very clear disadvantages. I think the key to beating Belal Muhammad is manage his pressure. When he fought Leon Edwards, the reason he was able to win, the reason why his game and his takedowns opened up so well was because he got in Leon's face, he closed the distance, and Leon could not get him off. He just couldn't do it. He could not keep Belal away from him, and therefore he was making Leon cover up, which opened up the takedowns. But you parallel that when Belal Muhammad fought Geoff Neal. Geoff Neal was just more dangerous. He was a cleaner boxer. He had more power. He was all around just better in the pocket than Belal Muhammad was. And therefore, he was able to win the fight. Again, and you look at Shavkat when he fought Geoff Neal. Geoff is somebody who is a better boxer than Belal Muhammad, who has more power, but Shavkat hung in there with him. He ate bombs, landed a ton of shots himself, really hurt him at times. And again, I don't think Belal getting in Shavkat's face and trying to pressure him is the answer. I think that Shavkat's way more dangerous than him there, and I think, honestly, that is going to open up Shavkat's game a lot. Of course, though, where Belal does have a big advantage is the pure wrestling. Belal has such a clean double leg. It's so smooth. When he gets his hands locked behind you, I mean, there's not really any answer to the takedown defense. Again, Geoff Neal had some absurd takedown defense against Belal Muhammad. I mean, I don't think Shavkat's going to have defense nearly this good. But again, we've never really seen Shavkat put on his back. We've never really seen Shavkat have to fight off double legs before. It's kind of uncharted territory. But if Belal Muhammad gets his hands locked this deep against Shavkat, most likely Shavkat's going down. I mean, again, look at how fucking jacked Belal Belal Muhammad is. He's huge. He's so strong. And of course, once Belal gets you down, you turtle to try to get back up, and that's where he slaps the body triangle on you, and now you're stuck for the entire round. I mean, look, it is a tricky puzzle to solve, but on the feet, I really, really believe that Shavkat has the answer to Belal's pressure. Though, I mean, that's not a given to win, given the fact that Luque, when he fought Belal Muhammad the second time, was doing a good job dealing with Belal's pressure because, again, Luque is such a dangerous boxer in close as well. But Belal just ended up hitting some wild takedowns off of the back foot. So, again, it's going to 100% come down to, can Shavkat defend the double legs? I think, to me, that is the number one thing here. We already knew that Shavkat probably wasn't going to be able to take Belal down. If you're struggling with Carlson Harris, you're probably going to struggle with Belal. Again, I like the double legs that Shavkat is shooting, but Belal's takedown defense is so good. I think that with this matchup in particular, you can go back and forth a little bit. I think both guys have some key advantages, but is Shavkat going to be able to stop the double legs? That is the question, the only one that matters.